What are the early markers of autism? Today, in my conversation with Dr. Erin Michaud, we get into the early markers of autism and an amazing project, the Autism Sibling Project, that she is working on through the New England Center for Children. Dr. Michaud is a speech language pathologist and a BCBA-D. She has over 20 years of experience in communication development and applied behavior analysis. She really resonates with the vision and our values here at ABA Speech, and she has a lot of focus on naturalistic developmental behavioral interventions, NDBIs, which we talk about a lot. In this episode, you are going to learn all about the early markers of autism. You're going to learn about this project, and you're going to learn that in this project, they are supporting parents and supporting little ones as early as a month. And they go out every 2 weeks and they coach parents and caregivers and family members about what these markers of autism are and how we can support our youngest learners. We talk about eye contact, reciprocal cooing, which is about the cutest thing ever, shifting attention, joint attention, and social behavior. You will want to listen to this episode. It is really amazing the work that they're doing and how important the work that they're doing is to all of us, whether you're listening as a speech therapist, a BCBA, an RBT, or a parent. This is impactful work that is going to help so many in their journey to communication. I'm Rose Griffin, a speech therapist, board-certified behavior analyst, and founder of ABA Speech. It wasn't all that long ago that I felt overwhelmed by providing therapy for my autistic students and any students who were not yet speaking. Fast forward through many doubts, tears, research, and courses, and you will see the framework that I use today and share with over 60,000 readers weekly. One that will help you support your students and feel more confident in the process. I created the ABA Speech podcast to give you simple, step-by-step strategies to help you reach all of your students wherever they are on their communication journeys. If you're a speech therapist, BCBA, RBT student, or parent who's looking to help all students develop a way to communicate with the world, you are in the right place, friend. Let's get started. We have a wonderful guest for you today. Welcome to the show, Dr. Erin Michaud. Thank you so much for coming on to the show.
Thank you for having me.
I was just absolutely thrilled when I came across your content and a post I think you made about maybe something amazing that you're doing in the field on LinkedIn. I talk about LinkedIn a lot because it is social media, but I feel like it's professional social media and it's a nice place to connect with people. I have met some really amazing people that I've had on the show, and so you're one of them. But I'm really excited for you to share at the start of our show just kind of what your journey was to dual certification and how did you know you wanted to go on for your PhD, because you've been in school for a long time. You're doing very important work, but it's really hard to get all that training.
Oh, sure. So I'm an SLP first. I went for my master's, became a speech pathologist, and I started looking for jobs, and I was really interested in autism. So I found the New England Center for Children, and they were hiring. I knew nothing about ABA. I actually was, Googling what is ABA so that I knew what I was talking about at the interview. I ended up getting the job. I started there and learned so much about behavior analysis, and they offered a certification program through Western New England, and I took it, which was great. So I ended up with my BCBA a few years later. And then I had kids, so I took a little time off from school, and then, started to get bored again. So I started looking into what else I could do for a degree. And Western New England also offers a PhD in behavior analysis, but I also looked at the potentially getting a PhD in speech pathology. I even looked at law school. I just wanted something new and different.
I did too. You are not the first. There is somebody else. I can't remember now because this is like episode over 250. Yeah. But I, at one time, looked into like being a special education lawyer because I was working in a very contentious district and like I was around people all the time and I was like, I could do this. This kind of aligns with my personality. Okay, so that's so funny that you kind of were like looking into different things and that was something that you kind of considered. Yeah, that's funny.
That's exactly what I was thinking too. Special ed law, and we have the background, so we'd be able to, talk about,
Mm,
what was going on behind the scenes as well
right.
as law. Um, but I ended up at Western New England with a PhD in behavior analysis because I found an advisor, Dr. Amanda Karsten, whose interests really aligned with mine. She loves all things early intervention and was very interested in language. So I thought, oh, perfect. This kind of encompasses both the SLP and the BCBA in me. So um, she she was my advisor and really helped to capture the speech and language aspect of what I know and do. So we created for my dissertation a parent training manual teaching parents how to teach their child how to mand using naturalistic strategies. So, again, behavior analysis and speech pathology were involved. So it was great.
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah, I
Yeah.
love that. And in my recently we did a pretty large course last year. I put together a 5-hour course about naturalistic developmental behavioral interventions, NDBI. And I think that's so great when you can integrate speech therapy and ABA like that, with that early intervention lens, like how impactful the work you're doing is. It's just like so cool. So you are the principal investigator of the Early Markers of Autism Sibling Project at the New England Center for Children, which I'm excited to talk about. But can you just tell us a little bit about the center? Because I've heard really great things. I remember there was somebody who worked at an ABA center up here with me. She was like a student at the time, I think, and then she became a speech therapist. I think we're still Facebook friends, but we haven't talked in a while. And I
Yeah.
think she works at New England Center for Children, but it's a very highly regarded center. And I feel like I know that because I'm a BCBA, but some speech therapists may not know about it. Can you just tell us like where it's located, what they do, and things like that? Because I know that it's great, but listeners may be new to it.
Oh, sure. So we're located right outside of Boston, Massachusetts, and we're actually celebrating our 50th anniversary this year, which is very exciting.
Yeah.
It's a school for children with autism, but it's also a research center.
Mhm.
We have a school in Abu Dhabi. We have clinics in Dubai. We have partner classrooms around the state of Massachusetts. So it's really, a big company.
Mhm.
What's wonderful about it is it's very collaborative. So it isn't necessary to have speech pathologists, OTs, PTs, but they do large teams of all of the disciplines. And the collaboration has been great. And I know you talk a lot about that, and it can be difficult at times, but I've always been spoiled at New England Center to have, the BCBAs really respect the rest of the professions and vice versa.
That's important. And I think I'm doing I think this podcast will come out before we're doing a course. And part of the title is interdisciplinary respect because
I
that
love
is
that.
yeah, because that's so important. And I too, like, I have historically worked in school districts and private clinics or ABA type centers that are non-public programs for autistic learners. And I feel like when I'm working in places like that that are really specialized, everybody's just on board. Like everybody's ready to provide speech therapy and ABA and all those things, but it's not like that in the rest of the world. So I think it's great to talk about like what this can look like for professionals and then also for the families, which is so cool. And in the research I was doing really about the project that you're working on, I'll put in the show notes. There's this really beautiful video. It's like a 7-minute video, and it just talks about a family, and you're in the video, I think, going out to somebody's home and like helping a parent who has this parent has 3 children. 2 are autistic, 1 is a typically developing peer, I believe. But it's just a really nice video. Sometimes we talk about research and stuff like this, like, no, this is who it's helping parents.
Right.
And you're doing such great work, which I love because I'm doing such different work where I'm trying to disseminate on social media. And oftentimes I'll share videos of parents who are raising supporting autistic children, and they have these videos that are like early signs of autism. These are some indicators that we saw, and I'll, post those on my account at ABA Speech. We have 100,000 followers now, which is so cool. But with
Wow.
that many followers, you get a lot of people who say a lot of really wild things under there.
Yeah.
So, and they don't always see it as like, oh, a lot of kids do this, and it's not a big deal. But and seeing the work that you're doing, it's so important for us to know these things, and it's so important for us to be able to support parents and kids. So, can you share with us about the Early Markers of Autism Sibling Project? It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, sure. So, what we're doing is looking to examine those potential early behavioral markers that might predict a later diagnosis of ASD. And our population is siblings of children with autism. So we have a higher risk population because the recurrence rate in siblings is around 20%. And then we also do have a low risk group. So those are infants that don't have a sibling with autism.
Okay.
So we start out, we always start under 3 months, but we try to start right away. I mean, we're in the homes at 2 weeks if parents, want us to be. And we go out every 2 weeks and assess our babies with the parents involved. We're on the ground with mom, dad, nanny, grandma, whoever might be there, showing them what we're doing. And if we see something, meaning, we see a marker that we're concerned with, we teach the parent or caregiver how to work with the child to, get that marker to happen. So for example, if, a baby isn't responding to their name, we work with the parent to show them how to make that happen. So this project was started about 6-7 years ago by Dr. Becky McDonald,
Right.
and COVID happened. So technically we'd be finished if things didn't go online. We didn't feel like we were getting what we wanted. Because like I just said, we're on the floor with parents. It's really nice. They're talking to us about what's happening in their lives and child's lives. And, we're able to work right with them. And that wasn't the case online. So we had what we call cohort A. So our first cohort who ended up getting, assessment and treatment online. And then now what we have is cohort B. So these kiddos are receiving all in-person assessment and treatment.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what are some of the, I guess, what are some of the early markers, and are there specific things that do you have a set kind of evaluation that you're looking, because this is going to be research, and I'm sure that there's a lot of things that you need to do,
Yeah.
but are you like looking at very set markers? And I guess how many of them are there? You don't have to get into all of them, but kind of what are some of those markers?
So great question. So a big part of our study is we created the EMA, the Early Markers of Autism Assessment. And this is designed for birth to 18 months. And this is what we run every session. We also do an ADOS as from 1 year on, a Mullen and an AOC quarterly. But the EMA really is guiding the markers. And we're looking at 4 categories. So we look at social interaction. And some of the things we're looking at within that category are eye contact, reciprocal cooing, which I, of course, love as the speech pathologist, smiling. And then we look at shifting attention. So can the baby shift their attention from one thing to another? Some of those things are, looking from an object to a person or localizing a rattle. We also look at joint attention as a category. So following a gaze, following a point, initiating joint attention with a musical toy and a book. And these things are when the child is 10 months and on. So some of the, at 1 month, we're really looking at the eye contact and smiling. And we add on these markers as the baby gets older. And our fourth category is social behavior, and we're looking at things like imitation within that category.
Okay, that's interesting. I did this I don't even know how I got on this. I probably just was reinforced by my customers, but I started doing this talk called The Power of Joint Attention. And I started it maybe 3 years ago, and I did it. Nakia Dower, I don't know if you know her. She's kind of like the SLP, BCBA. She's our cheerleader, our queen bee.
Yes.
But she always posts like when we do cool stuff, and I'm sure she posts about your work. And so she one time was like, and Rose Griffin did her favorite presentation, The Power of Joint Attention, because I had so many people, and I still like it's a course in my membership, the ABA Speech Connection. I have this membership for speech therapists, BCBAs, and RBTs where we provide CEUs. But so many people love this information. And why I think it's so important, I feel like a lot of the information is covered by speech pathology curriculum, but as a BCBA, I feel like we don't always get that specific coursework on how to like really work on communication in a naturalistic way. And so
Yeah.
it's been fun to talk about these things because all the things you're saying, I'm like, oh, like reciprocal cooing, that just sounds like so cute. My sister-in-law just had twins, boy and girl, like 4 months ago, but we've been going out to see them like almost every month, and to see like how they've changed just in such a short amount of time. Like babies really, and I have 3 kids of my own, but you forget, it's like
Yes.
you're like, wow, communication's amazing, right? Like you just
Yeah.
really get to be on the front line of how this is all developing.
It's really wonderful. I have 2 kids as well, older, and I wish one I had the knowledge that I have now around infants, but I don't remember either. So it's
Yeah.
fun to watch with your nieces and nephews, and I have the same situation. That's great.
Yeah. Yeah. Cause you're always
Yeah.
like, wow, this is amazing
Yeah.
communication. Because when I worked in ABA clinics and non public programs, you're working with kids who are so much older, who maybe are engaging in unsafe problem behavior that's a barrier to their learning and just their safety. And a lot of the kids don't have some of these very foundational things that you're talking about. And so it gets really tricky, right, on how to provide intervention on those different skills. So I think that it's great that you're looking at these things so young. So, okay, so talk to me about like just from because I'm not a researcher, I'm not a PhD. So from like a standpoint of like this project, so you have cohort B, and so then how or there certain families that are in cohort B, and like how long do you work with the families, and what does that timeline look like?
Yeah, so we started cohort B about 3 years ago, and we
Oh,
want to have at least 65 families, high
okay.
risk families, in
Yeah.
order to get the statistical analysis that we need. So we just actually enrolled our 65th baby, but we're going to go beyond that for attrition purposes.
Yeah.
We start at, again, about 1 month. We run the EMA 0 to 18 months, and then we go out at 2 years and 3 years and do an ADOS and a Mullen. And then at 4 and 5, we do a Vineland. So we're really, with these families for a long time. And in between those assessments, we're getting a lot of phone calls still. And, we become close with these families and they want to share updates and progress. And it's really nice. And ultimately, what we're trying to do is change the trajectory of autism for this, what we would consider a vulnerable population. So whether that's, treating those markers really early on within those first 6 months,
Hmm.
or if we're seeing markers later on, so in that this, has happened where after 12 months we start to see
Right.
markers emerge, we get the child assessed by an outside evaluator if we think they weren't a diagnosis, and then they get a diagnosis and get that early intervention right away, really early. So, and we know that the biggest factor in early intervention success is, age at which they enter. So
Hmm.
we're trying to get them in as early as possible.
Oh, I love that. So, yeah, because I'm just thinking about some of the, pediatrician visits I go on. I feel like this information could be really widespread in the fact that if you are a sibling of a child who, or a person who has autism, that you could really inform the healthcare community about how important this type of early intervention is, or what type of markers are important. Because when you go to your pediatrician visit, you get some of those general screeners and things like that. But do you think, like, I guess with this project, it seems like it's going to help so many people, but what do you think will be some of the consequences of this really good research coming out, this really rich research?
You figured it out, Rose. That's exactly what we want to do is, we want to work with these pediatric offices. And so right now, the American Pediatric Association says 18 months is when you should start screening for autism. And that we already have our babies diagnosed and in treatment by that point, never mind
Right.
just being screened. So we want to start these screenings right away, like you mentioned, for these siblings, from birth.
Right.
So that they can receive treatment if necessary, or get a diagnosis early on, and avoid, the wait lists and wait lists for treatment and diagnosis, and et cetera.
So with the early markers of autism assessment, is that something that is specific to New England, or is that something that's publicly available? I feel like people would ask me that question.
Yeah, this is the question I get when I present. So we have the early markers of autism assessment, and we do plan on validating that assessment and making it more widely available. But right now it's only, we're only using it within the research study, but we hope
Okay.
soon to
Yeah.
make it
Well,
available.
yeah. I mean, it seems like just for all the people I talk to, like working in early intervention, or just parents who understand that the risk is higher for a sibling to be autistic. So talk me through, like, let's say we do the early markers of autism assessment, and like, let's say hypothetically it becomes like this is a tool that people are utilizing.
Mhm.
So then is it that the parents would be working on these types of things, or like anybody in the child's environment, as long as they're trained by you or somebody, your team, somebody who understands like how to work on these things with the babies because they're tiny.
Yeah.
Like, I guess who's qualified to work on these types of things with the children?
That's another great question. So we created the BURP curriculum, so babies in responsive play,
Oh,
and it's a corresponding curricula for every one of the skills we assess on the EMA, and it's
oh,
parent friendly. So we
oh.
handed, it's one sheet. We hand it over to parents, and we talk them through it. So our hope is that insurance would pick up early intervention for kiddos that are at risk or showing signs. I actually recently talked to a group in New Mexico, and this
Yeah.
is happening, which is amazing.
Ooh.
In Massachusetts, you need a diagnosis to get these services
Uh-huh.
um, as an infant. But, in New Mexico, they're actually providing services for infants at risk. ABA services. And I
Oh.
couldn't believe that. And I was just so happy to hear that. So we hope that that would be happening in other states as well. And we would like to train, whether it be early intervention specialists, RBTs,
Mm-hmm.
parents, whoever it may be that is that's working with the babies. Um,
Aw,
so yeah, we'd
that's
like to make it
amazing.
widespread. I know, I thought so too.
Wow. Well, New Mexico is interesting because there's a duly certified SLP BCBA Melissa Santa Cruz. I think that's how we say her name. She's
Yeah.
great. She did a course for us many years ago in ABA Speech Connection, actually with an autistic adult. It was so cool because he was receiving services from there. But they actually, I remember at the time learning that they actually had really good funding for adult services
Oh,
for ABA, and that sometimes, because it's more Western, that sometimes it's hard to find providers in the state, but that the funding was there. I remember for adults. So, okay, shout out New Mexico. I mean, they
right.
understand what's going on. Okay, I love
Yeah.
that. Oh, yeah, that's so nice. Yeah, I mean, and it's so hard. Like, the work you're doing is just so important. I think it's good to talk about it on the podcast because sometimes, as treating clinicians, it's hard for them to know like what research is already out there published and what stuff that you're working on, but it can really have so many implications for practice and for
Mhm.
just everyone this way. So this is just amazing. And I'll put in the show notes, I'll put that nice video that shows the work of, did you say Dr. Rebecca McDonald? Was that her name?
Yes, she was the
Okay.
founding principal investigator, and she's since retired, but she
Yes.
consults to us. I just talked to her
Oh,
today. So,
okay. Okay, cool. Yeah. And you get to see a little bit of her and this family. You're in the video too. So it's a 7-minute video, but it's really nice just to kind of see it and how important this work is. This
yeah.
is great. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. And where can people find out more about you and your work? I know we'll include that link to actually what the project is.
Mhm.
Is that the best place? And I think you're on LinkedIn as well.
I am. I'm on LinkedIn, and New England Center for Children has a page regarding this study. I also have a website. It's www.talkingfirstwords.com, and I share resources with parents and providers on, language and social skills and just general development for infants. And I have an email on that website as well.
Okay, great. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. It was great to connect.
Thank you, Rose. Thanks for having me.